Jaguar Jonze won many fans over with her roaring performance of Rabbit Hole at Australia Decides 2 years ago. And we're so excited to have her back at Australia Decides again this year with her song Little Fires. Jaguar, thank you so much for joining us and welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I totally remember when we met 2 years ago, and it's so nice to come full circle again.
It really is. It's kind of fitting after this much time. Hey, it just all comes back together and feels kind of normal again.
Totally.
It's online.
It's kind of like things are on pause and then you just press play again a little bit.
Exactly. You've had a pretty full-on couple of years. And I feel like that really did inspire listening to the lyrics of Little Fires. It inspired a lot of the meaning behind that song that obviously is a very personal song for you, but one that everyone can kind of relate to, having lived in this world for the last 2 years. Tell us about your song.
I guess I wrote Little Fires for anyone who's ever had to fight for something bigger than themselves or that they were allowed to be. And I wanted it to serve as a reminder that we're not alone and that when we come together to fight for something every single day, we can create something amazing and bring about change. And I guess I wanted it to be a song for everyone who's been through really challenging times, to kind of encourage everyone that resilience is one of humanity's best traits. And I know we've all been through such a difficult 2 years, and hopefully this is a way I can give back to the Eurovision community for supporting me through a really difficult last 2 years for me as well.
Was there an element of, I guess, cathartic release in writing this song? Was there a process in terms of you kind of looking within yourself? And I know you said you spent quite a lot of time writing this one.
Yeah, I honestly, like, it's so hard to explain what the last 2 years has been like for me. I've had COVID twice, and the first time I had COVID, I was in hospital for 5 weeks, and I couldn't get home to be with my family and friends for over 6 months. There's a lot of disconnection and detachment that happened in the last 2 years. And then on top of that, I was at the front of the Me Too movement in the Australian music industry. And that meant I was really fighting for, it just felt like an impossible fight every single day. And I had to put my artistry to the side so that I can focus on the advocacy. I went into Little Fires wanting to create a song that was extremely personal, intimate, vulnerable, but also true to the last 2 years. I wanted it to be like a moment where I claim back my artistry and remember why I went into music in the first place.
Yeah, I guess on the COVID bit, I remember when it was not long after the last Australia Decides that you went to the US and you came back, and I think you got COVID from the flight.
Totally.
What was it like being kind of an unassumed figurehead of the face of COVID in Australia at that time? It must be such a foreign experience for you, not only dealing with the repercussions of COVID, but then being the face of it.
Totally. I mean, footage of me going into an ambulance in hospital to go to the hospital went on ABC News. So, like, it was a bizarre experience because not only is it really weird when you're sick, that's normally the time where you want friends and family around you. But I couldn't even have that. Like, I had to be isolated. But then on top of that, I had to meet like public and media like pressures and obligations, and they were putting me in this position of wanting to make sure that I do like public service announcements or like help the community understand what was going on. Now I didn't realize until I had recovered from COVID how much of myself I had to give out. People actually don't know this, but like I was also the research guinea pig, and I wrote chapters in medical journals that's been published all around the world. Like, it was a bizarre experience. yeah, very weird. But I learned a lot. And I think I also learned how much I need to take care of myself after that. So it's been a good learning experience. Unique.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people can now relate to it, but certainly I think earlier on there was this weird ostracism or like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
we can't really, we don't know about it, we can't really talk so much about it. So I think you're incredibly brave for going through that and then publicizing your experience with that as well. On top of that, you being the face and the figurehead for the Me Too movement in Australia, that was obviously a super personal experience for you, but something you felt really needed to be exposed in the Australian music industry. How do you feel about, I guess, not so much a backlash, but how do you feel about, I guess, exposing that story, how people responded to that in Australia?
I guess in some respects, I didn't know what I was kind of going into. I just put like a post-it note on my socials, and because I had heard, a little bit of background noise about something that was happening, and I just wanted to provide a safe space for any survivor, woman or victim that needed it. And in my head, I thought I was providing that safe space for a handful of people in my personal networks. But what happened was like this like avalanche of so many stories coming into my inbox. And that's when I realized that this was a huge problem. And, I might have triggered something, but it was actually like the time where people were ready to do something, to listen, and to speak up. They just needed, I guess, like a voice to help elevate those voices. And I also realized that knowing all these stories came into my inbox, there was no way I was going to continue to stay in that culture of silence that has allowed all of this abuse to happen for so long. Um, and my own as well, right? Like I couldn't get justice for the wrong that was done to me. And so I wanted to seek out my own justice, because if I didn't, then I was letting them determine what my self-worth was. And I think I have grown so much in the last 2 years to realize that I needed to stand up for myself.
Yeah, I remember when you did post that post 2 years ago and how powerful it was, the response that you got back, and you were reposting a lot of what people were saying. I'm sure we're on the same page. We really hope that that's achieved real change in Australia, and definitely you're incredibly brave for being the person to do that. It's been a huge process for you, but it's been
Thank you.
such a rewarding experience, I imagine, as well, hearing other people's experiences. And yeah, congratulations to you in that sense, really, for really being the figurehead for that.
Thank you.
In terms of that inspiring your song, definitely there's a lyrical side of Little Fires, and that kind of makes reference to, maybe not so much, maybe believing you're the one little voice that isn't quite certain if other people are on your side, but it takes a village, and sometimes. In terms of the visuals, it's a beautiful video clip. Tell me about your process with incorporating the kind of ideas with that.
I actually had 1 week to put that together. So I had 1 week to, produce it, shoot it, like direct it, edit it, and then deliver it. And I didn't know if I would be able to pull it off, but I had this vision in my head for Little Fires. I wanted something symbolic, and I wanted something that represented, sorry, that represented both vulnerability and strength. And something about that, like, fragile image being suspended, showed both this kind of, intimacy, but courage and strength as well. So it's really different from a lot of my other music videos, which I usually direct as well. Little Fires only has 3 shots in the music video, and I wanted to strip back so much of what's happening in the video and visual to just kind of let the song breathe, um, and to let the visual and what you're seeing carry through with, I don't know, as much respect and yeah, I don't know. That's what I had in mind, and so I went for it. Like even the visual that's happening behind me, I commissioned that from my 3D artist friend who lives in Japan. Um, and I was just telling him that I have this idea in mind where I wanted it to be like we were slowly entering my vulnerable space, and you can just see this like transition of layers breaking down, and I'm inviting you to hear my story. But then I wanted the opposite for when we hit that second half, the dramatic side, and that is it looks like closing, but to me, I wanted it to represent healing. So we're seeing these kind of layers build back up because there's healing and there's strength and um, power coming back to the person. So that was my weird explanation. It's hard to explain what goes on in my brain sometimes.
On that, I think we often speak in Australia about how undervalued, because you are definitely a creative. We can see that in terms of the video clips, in terms of, I
Thank
know you
you.
released some coloring books as well when you were with
Yeah.
COVID. Creativity, especially in Australia, it's been something obviously that you hold incredibly dear. What does the arts mean to you? And I guess, how would you like to see that change in Australia?
Um, Art saved my life. And I don't want to be like dramatic about it, but it really did save my life because I came from a really difficult background. Um, and there was a lot of shame and repression in that background, which meant that I didn't have the tools and techniques to be able to process, you know, whatever was going on internally, the trauma and, you know, life's obstacles. I was just kind of swallowing everything. Music and art is this amazing way to be able to kind of express yourself and have a conversation with yourself and understand what's going on, but also, like you said before, like have this cathartic outlet um, to put all that chaos and mess that and you know whatever in here, and then put it onto a piece of paper, put it into a piece of music, put it into something, create a world out of it. And I just think that is, um, it's just another form of communication, just like how you and I are talking, just with words. To me, music and art and dance as well, even though I'm not really a dancer, but like to others, it's just another form of language. And I think that's why it's really important. To me, I feel like arts is honest dialogue, honest conversations, and you know, science might kind of have the data and have specific moments, and history might detail certain things, but like culture, like art and music, it details the emotions and you know the actual you get to kind of understand what people went through during those specific moments, and you get to kind of learn from people without having to go through it. And I just think there's something amazing about the arts and culture. Well, I mean, that's kind of what Eurovision is all about as well, too, right? So I think all the Eurovision fans come together for the very same reason, is we get to connect and converse. Even if they're singing in a different language, you can watch that and go, "Whoa, I felt that," you know? Yeah.
I think you're undervaluing your dance skills. I remember, I remember 2 years ago, looking back at your performance at Australia Decides, I remember we were all completely floored by, I mean, pun intended, something out of the box.
I was laughing at that too. I was like, "Was that a pun, Sebastian?"
It was incredible. I'd love to know, a lot of artists do speak about it, and you're in the unique position of being an artist that's coming back to this competition. What's the Eurovision support been like since you've been to Australia Decides the first time?
To be honest, I don't think I would have been able to go through what I have been through in the last 2 years. I cannot highlight enough um, how much sacrifice and how much like risk I took on in the public eye to, knock down old structures of power and politics and egos to bring about change in the music industry. And for the days that I fell down, honestly, it was the Eurovision family and fans that carried me. And I'm not saying that just because this is Eurovision. I actually talk to people who are like dedicated Eurovision fans, but to me, I consider them family now. I talk to them every single day on this chat. They're signed up to my Patreon, and I've been able to connect with them. And I got to be honest with them for the days that I couldn't put on a brave face. They were there to remind me that I deserve the support and love and um, comfort that we all should receive when we're going through really difficult times. So honestly, that's what it means to me is family. And I never had family growing up, and I now really understand what it means. And I feel like that's the addiction to Eurovision as well, is we get to come together and go, "Oh my God, Sebastian, 2 years! Like this is so exciting!" And it's kind of like a reunion, right? It's like that Christmas barbecue every year, but it's Eurovision.
Just a couple more drinks we need, drinking games,
Yeah.
it's the whole schmozzle. And I think that's a really beautiful thing you're talking about. I don't know if sure you have realized the impact of what's happened to you for the last 2 years. That's not just felt in Australia. You would have fans and people, we have commenters on our posts who know exactly about what you went through in the UK and Bulgaria, all throughout Europe. And so there's a real universality to your experience, and you being able to share that with the entirety of the world, if not just Europe, obviously a part of Eurovision. That's a really beautiful thing.
It is, and I feel like again that is the beauty of art, music, and language is that we are all human beings, and for so long we've kind of been conditioned to just like um, keep things quiet and to like put a particular face on when we go through society. But I want to knock all that down. Like to me, art is truth, and we should just be speaking the truth. And when we do that, we get to connect more, and that's what makes us feel you know, warm and fuzzy and human. So I love it. I love it a lot.
Talking about the next 7 days for you, how are you preparing for Australia Decides this time around?
Um, I've been, people laugh at me, but I've been talking about how I am um, an athlete and I need to have the respect of an athlete. And so, like, every day I am eating well, I am sleeping well. I'm going to the gym. I'm like maintaining, my health and fitness. But on top of that, I'm warming up my vocals every day and I'm singing. I'm basically treating it like a sport, because I feel like we have this pressure as musicians to just like go about things and just whip out your like natural talent. While athletes get to go to places with this amazing team around them. I want a masseuse and physio that's just like warming up my vocals and being like, "You can do it. You can do it, Jaguar." So I'm treating it like that. I'm like um, trying to respect this whole thing for every aspect of what it brings, and yeah, I wanna bring my best. Last time it was like I got to taste the experience and it was such an honor, but this time I want to really maximize and show people what I'm truly made of, and that hopefully people think I'm worthy to represent Australia.
I think we need to call SBS for that masseuse, hey?
Yeah. Eva, write notes down of what I need.
Talking about being the creative, are you directing your own performance on stage for Australia Decides?
I've definitely had a lot to do with it. Sebastian, I have a problem, which is like I can never take off my creative hat. So, I want to make sure that what's happening on stage is an expression that's coming straight from here. And so I have every bit to do with what's going on. But also, it can't happen without a team. So it's also an amazing team behind me, behind Australia Decides, that is helping me make my dreams come true.
Any final words for your fans at Wiwibloggs and really all over the world now for Eurovision?
Wiwibloggs is the best. I follow it and like I read the news. um, and it's so good. And the people of Wiwibloggs are honestly so amazing, including yourself, Sebastian. So
Oh, thank you.
I'm just so glad I'm here as a punter. I'm here as a consumer as well. It's just lucky that I get to be an artist again this time around. But it's a fun little world, and I feel so welcomed in, and I just want to say thank you to everyone for making it a warm welcome. Thank you for inviting me to your annual family Christmas barbecue. But Eurovision, it's so much fun. I have so much fun.
We can't wait to have you back every single year. You've got an open invitation.
Thank you, Sebastian. But I would love to just make it happen this time around and send me off, you know.
Well done. Congratulations. And we can't wait to see you next week. All the best, and we'll see you on the Gold Coast.
Thank you. I'll see you all next week.
Bye.